while ago, the World Baseball Classic happened, and that's a major event because it brings multiple nations across the world to come and play baseball. Some areas where baseball hasn't been that popular, like the U.S. has been the forefront of baseball. We created baseball. It's an America's pastime, which just means we created it for us, and it's been longstanding in the history of the U.S. But Japan and the fans in Japan has really adopted the sport. And so in the final, Japan was facing off against the United States, and Japan beat the U.S. 3-2. But not only did they win, they won with two teammates facing off against each other at the plate, with Ohtani, who's a pitcher who also bats for the Angels, against Mark Trout, who is an elite athlete in Major League Baseball, also on the Angels. He struck him out to win the game, and it was just like one of the best pitchers in baseball versus one of the best batters in baseball to determine the result of the game, and that rarely happens. And so it was just immense, and the difference in the celebration between the broadcast that was going to Japan and the broadcast in the US was insane. Like the shouting and excitement and everything over in Japan was absolutely wonderful to see. And on top of that, as a person who's loved baseball and played baseball for a long time, the way Japan plays baseball is how I like baseball being played. The way baseball should be played, in my opinion. And so seeing them win and stomp on the U.S. when they changed Major League Baseball to have universal DHs in both sides of the leagues, it was great to see. I was so happy to see that. It was good to see?
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah, I don't know what the difference is between baseball in Japan and the U.S., but I also know baseball is big in Korea as well. Koreans love baseball, and especially my cousin. He's a real big fan of baseball. But I don't know what the differences are, so if you could inform me.
I mean, I currently don't have the knowledge to explain the exact details of the differences. The biggest one is like the way baseball used to be played was like small ball, where you would go up to the plate and you'd want to advance the runners. So you'd be able to bunt, you'd swing and do hit and runs, you'd do various different types of play to where it wasn't about home run or bust, which the U.S. has become home run or bust because everybody loves the big hit. And so a lot of the like fundamental elements of baseball have been lost. I've seen like Billy Hamilton, who's one of the fastest runners in baseball history, couldn't bunt. And he could bunt to get on base because of how fast he was and the amount of immense impact he had when he was on base, because the pitcher was so scared of him stealing, and same with the catcher, that it actually forced errors. It made it easier for the batter to hit because they refused to throw off-speed pitches because they knew if they threw off-speed, he'd easily reach stealing second base. And so in Japan, they use a lot of those old school elements where instead of home run or bust, they hit in bunches. Everybody steps up to the plate and hits. The pitchers hit. It's more of a team unity when you're running through the cycle as opposed to just batter versus pitcher. And if I hit a home run or hit multiple base hits, they actually use the elements of the hit and run. They use the elements of stealing. They use the elements of bunting to advance the runner. Just the style of play is more reminiscent of traditional baseball and how baseball was played when I loved baseball. Like how the Big Red Machine, the Cincinnati Reds, one of the most famous teams in baseball history, played. And so that's the unique difference between the two, is just how it's played as opposed to like necessarily rule differences that I can pull off the top of my head.
So it's almost like it's good that Japan won because it showed the U.S. that it can create a really exciting environment if it's played with more of the strategic element as opposed to always swinging for the fences. Is that what I'm getting out of that?
That was a great takeaway. Yes.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool to see, because I know you complain a lot about the current state of baseball, and I can totally see about how in America a lot of things are just like, is it bigger? It's better then, and that could be like the big takeaway for everybody watching it, as opposed to in between all those big moments are people really bored, waiting for like the next thing. But if there was more strategy going on, then people could follow like the nuances of it. So that'd be nice.
Yeah, it makes more excitement throughout the entire game as opposed to, it's a home run, yeah, really excited, now we're bored because everybody's striking out.